Hey, Juliana, I'm so excited. Okay, so let's go ahead and pulling up your chart now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just briefly give you some information about your chart, and then we're going to go a little deeper into it. I talk really fast, so if you have any questions, let me know. Feel free to take notes. Highly encourage it for everybody. And then at the end, we'll kind of dig into some other areas you want to focus on. Now, up front, is there any questions or anything you have that you want to make sure we touch on today?
I don't think so yet.
Okay. Right? You gotta get through this bar. Okay, I'm just gonna make a couple changes here on my end. Oops. Because it makes it so I can read it faster instead of doing all the calculations while I'm reading it. There we go. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, so overall, I'm going to kind of talk high level, and then what we're going to do is we're going to dive a little deeper into certain areas. So overall, you are a pretty private person. You're not necessarily a limelight person. And you have the majority of the faculties in your life are more private and home-based. In addition to that, your big focus is a lot about you this lifetime. So it's a lot about like learning yourself, understanding how you work with everyone else, kind of discovering who you are. And so you spend a lot of time in self-reflection, you spend a lot of time learning, you spend a lot of time analyzing things. And these are all things that are just very interesting to you. And it's mainly like a lot of stuff about your communication, your job, your identity, things like that. So that being said, let me look at something. It's so funny. The camera keeps blocking what I'm trying to see. So I have to keep moving it. Pull a couple reports. Okay. So you have, where's your Venus? Here it is. Okay. So Venus, I just want to touch on this real quick. So because it's kind of like one of the underlying foundations for the rest of your chart. So Venus is the driver in your chart. So essentially everything in your chart has its own personality, its own like way of dealing, its own way of expressing. However, everything is driven by Venus. So Venus is like, this is what we're doing, this is what's important, and everyone fall in line. And they're like, okay. So your Venus creates this current throughout your chart that says, we are all about balance. We are all about beauty. We are all about harmony and what's aesthetically appealing. What's my environment like? These beautiful flowers are amazing. That smell is luscious, right? Like all these things, like just beauty and balance and harmony. Because Venus, I mean, goddess of love, like that's kind of where it's coming from, right? So that's what you've got going on there. And so I just kind of wanted to say that because it's a pretty good undercurrent in your chart. So in the top, we're going to go over like your sun and your ascendant and your moon and some of these other planets that are important, that are big indicators that create who Juliana is. But at the same time, that Venus is constantly there. It doesn't go away because it's the driver. So that being the engine of your train, the rest of these, I said I was going to say compartments, but the rest of these, what are those called?
Cars. They call them cars.
Cars. I'm like, why am I driving like here? But the rest of these cars are coming along, right? So let's go ahead and look at your sun. So obviously you have a Cancer sun, and your Cancer sun is in your 12th house. So what that's saying is that the mask that you wear, because you've got your sun, your ascendant, and your moon, and your sun is the mask that you wear. And so that's how everyone sees you. That few seconds it takes someone to judge you, what is it they see? In your case, they see Cancer. And when they're seeing Cancer, Cancer is love, Cancer is feeling, Cancer is like emotion, these types of things. But then you go to your ascendant, and your ascendant is Leo. Now, your ascendant is when someone gets to know you. How's your brain work? That's the filter, right? So when things are coming into your world and your life, how is it you're perceiving them, and what is it you're communicating with people on a mental level? And for you, that being Leo, that is very proud. I mean, it's a lion, right? So it's very proud. On top of being very proud, this is a piece of your chart of how you communicate with a sense of loyalty. So you don't just let things go. You continue to go through them because your image of being caring and compassionate, and now you add this pride and loyalty to it, it's very sacrificial. And so you will do things for others more so than you will yourself. And we're going to get into that as well. But then the next thing I would like to touch on is your moon. So, and you'll see, because like the reason I'm going through this is first we have the mask, that's your Cancer face. Then you have your ascendant, which is how you think, and that's your processing. But then you go a level deeper, and people that really get to know you get to this level. And then on top of it, this is how you feel. This is how you experience when you're filtering the world through your own experience. This is how you feel about it. And your moon is a Sagittarius moon, and it's in the 5th house. And so the cool thing about that is it's very playful. Sagittarius likes enjoying things, likes to go. You've got a little heat here. Where it's like action taking, you're up for playing games, you understand needing release from stress, things like that. And this being in your 5th house is your actual home. So your home needs to be an environment that is expressive, it's creative, it's playful, it's fun. And when that doesn't happen, it causes a chain reaction with your life, because if you don't have that feeling of security of being able to be goofy, then you end up in a situation where you feel restricted and constrained. And that's not healthy for you. You really have to experience this, because you also have Neptune in your 5th house, which is you have a tendency to have rose-colored glasses on about your home. So you're just like, oh, everything is fine and okay, because you want that balance, you want that harmony, you want things peaceful. And so sometimes we will ignore it when it's not a good thing. And we'll just continue to push through because you're just like, la, 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 no, this is all great. And really, it's like you have to sometimes stop and go, this has to change. This isn't great. And we'll talk about that too. So I'm going to go at your 1st house and then go around all 12 of your houses in your chart. Because of the time constraint, I'm going to go pretty quickly, and we can dive in deeper at either your next appointment or after we're done with the recording. So your 1st house again is Leo. Now in Leo, yes, you have your ascendant, and it's all about that sun. So it's a very happy place because it also has additional energies coming from the. And so it's very much like, look, I'm good. Everything is good. So with that, you're also very proud about your life in some aspects of it, right? Like you're proud of your family. You're proud of your ability to think and communicate. And then when we go, also, you have what's called your karma there. And what karma is, just to be clear, because there's that reputation of like, when a negative happens, a positive happens. That's not truly fully karma. I mean, yes, that's some of it. But understand that a lot of karma also has to do with experience. So as you experience things in life, when you learn the lesson, how does it come around the next time? So, and you can't, when you take in anything in life, your experiences, your education, your story, your whatever it is, you expel it. And how does that expel out, right? And so in your situation, you have this also being Leo in your 1st house. And so a lot of times what can happen is when you are experiencing some of this, it can be challenging for you because you're very prideful, and that pride, it hurts your ego when things don't go the way you want them to. And the lesson in this and what you have to learn is how to accept the failures you've had and turn them into lessons. The second house of your chart has some really cool energy in it. I think it's cool because sometimes, a lot of times people will get a bad rap for having Virgo energy or being a Virgo because it's like so detailed and it's pretty intense. I, as you know, love Virgo because Virgo also sees all of the details, doesn't have a problem pointing out opportunities, is able to kind of come in and go, well, what about this? Now, the funny thing is with the Virgo energy, a lot of times extrovertly, you can come off very critical. And at the same time, like you've got like a whole circus happening behind you and everything's falling apart. And you're like, don't look at that. Don't look at that. Like, look at this beautiful image I'm putting out here for you of me. So in your case, it has the second house is about like a job. Like, how are you making income? How are you going about your day-to-day activities? Now, because you have Saturn and Mars and Jupiter in there, you can be really creative, but you do restrict yourself on that creativity to having to make it very practical and implementable, or that's not the right word, but how you make it very practical and something to take action on. It can be implemented. And that's because you've got the Saturn and Mars there too. And the Saturn and Mars is all about structure. It's about authority. It's about organization. It's about getting things done. Like you might kind of sit there and go, oh, because a Virgo likes to maybe not get things done. And it doesn't have as much of a push for it. But because you have this fiery energy coming in with it, you might kind of spend your time thinking things through, and you might want to fully understand something. And once you fully understand it, you can take action super fast and get it done. And so people will kind of sometimes when you're looking at your job, sometimes it can be a little frustrating because people will want something now. And because in the past, you've been able to be so aggressive, right? And they're like, I don't understand why it's taking so long. Well, it's because you're methodical about it. So you have to figure out the purpose, the outcome, all the pieces, and then boom, you're off. So being critical in the way that you think is all internal, and that's all yourself. Like you do a lot of it on your own. Occasionally you'll reach out, but not often because you're incredibly resourceful. So you develop these really strong values around the way that you make money. They have to line up with your soul, if that makes any sense. And so you might have experienced a situation where previously you had some financial problems, and because of it, you start to get this mindset of, I have to work super hard because I don't want that to happen in my life. And every time you go through a financial challenge, that feeling comes back out. And so then you're just like, I have to fix this. I have to be better. I have to be harder working, all of these things. So you get really concerned around like routine and structure and things because you just are always trying to up your game. And so then you move into your house of communication, and your communication is like so fun because it's got this Pluto that is all about like ripping things down and making all these changes. And it's just like intense, right? Like you've got like this Pluto that's like, we're changing everything. And then it's with Libra, and Libra's like, let's just find some balance and harmony. Do we have to have all this change all the time? And Pluto's like, yes. So you have this going on where like your Pluto sometimes can be, your communication sometimes can be a little out. And so you have to kind of figure out how to bring it back in so that people can bridge with you. And so finding other people that are good at communication will help you learn how to kind of go through those stages and create habits and develop a way of getting that harmonious communication that you want to come out in a way for you to help transfer the evolution you're trying to get to happen. And so you find many avenues to communicate in your lifetime through writing, through speaking, through all these different ways you can do it. And I mean, even expressive art. because you have an ability to be pretty creative. And so these different ways of figuring out your communication are going to help you understand communication. So then you also continue on with your chart and you have some houses that are empty. And what that means is just they're not a major focus in your life. So like with relationships in particular, with a significant one and your chosen one, that's not necessarily significant in your life. Will it happen? Does it happen? Yes. But is that a major driver? Not necessarily. The reason it's not, there's nothing going on in your 7th house isn't because you're never going to have this connection with one. We look back to your moon and your Venus for that connection in your chart, not the 7th house. But when you are looking for someone, you're more attracted to people who are logical, practical, stable, and eccentric is always a bonus, because if they're a little unique and different, you love that. So those are kind of some tips there. And then with your kids, and like your home life of growing up and how it kind of projects into your home life now is, I think, always informative, depending on what stages we're at in our life. But busy is key, right? Like to be busy, want to be busy. The kids are busy. You always want experiences and challenges, and you want to change everything at the house. You seek things to be unusual, maybe not the status quo, because you want to bring this experience of we don't all have to be the same, and that's what makes us special and unique. And that uniqueness needs to be embraced, and that's the message you're giving. And so you could, throughout your life, experience a lot of upheaval because of you particularly, all of this change, how much that is so good for your core and how you want those values to be passed on. At the same time, those things will be situations where it's like, oh, whoops, went a little too extreme with that one. So you'll end up having like upheaval and things happen that way. Now, a huge part of the energy in your chart is coming from the top of your chart, where you've got your career, your education, what makes you tick. And when we're looking at this, what we're really looking at is if you're on the rooftop and you're screaming out, I am Juliana and I blah, blah, blah. What is that, right? Like, what are you screaming out in this lifetime that this is what you're supposed to do? And this, I think, is really cool because a lot of times people don't see it, okay? But for you, you're coming out and you are screaming, I am the leader. Follow me. I accept you all. We're going to get this done. And you're just like, good, right? You don't want to be the follower. And that's probably why you have your own little tribe, right? So like, it's because you're just like, let's be independent. Let's go do our own thing. And let's just do this. And so that kind of ties in with some of these other areas in your chart. And you can kind of see why it's like a lot of focus on yourself, because you're learning so much, and you're learning because you're leading. And when you're leading through acceptance, and you're leading through equality and autonomy and all of these different things that are unique. And people that follow you, it's because they understand that and they need that validation, and you willingly give it. And you willingly give it because you've had experiences in life where you've been critically judged. And because of some of the energy you have with your other planets, that is very close to home and personal for you. People shouldn't be judged. And that's a big part of your core. But it's very important that people have a shelter, food, clothing, all of their necessities met, because you've experienced not having those in your life. And because you've experienced that, you're extremely sensitive to it. And it's very important to you that when you are leading people, it's because you're leading them into a life path where they don't have to experience those either. So, and then with your friends are actually very important for your balance and your sound wall and your communication. And so when you are bringing people into your life, you're looking for people who will embrace that Venus energy you have of balance and harmony. They'll accept your crazy busyness. They'll accept all of the different ways that you communicate. They're going to accept you for how you are, and that's a really good relationship for you. And you have to have this connection of communication, and that's why you like having your own tribe, because you do love communicating a lot. You think it's a beautiful thing to get to know each other. And then when you're spending a lot of time yourself and reflecting yourself, when you're doing this, you're doing it from a way of like, you're just very quick at processing things, but you always are looking at how people see you. And that's going to continue because it's in your chart. But the key is to not spend so much time being concerned about it as much as accepting, you know what, because I do like to be busy, because I do like my tribe, because I do like this critical side of me, because I do like these pieces about me, I need to accept it. It's not as much of other people accepting it, because at the end of the day, who cares what other people think about us? Well, that's not your case. You care. And because you care about your image and how people see you, and coming off intellectual and coming off with this loyalty and this compassion that you have, you want people to see all of this. And if they don't, they're not your people, okay? So you can spend some time, which you do, reflecting on it, but it's very evident that your image and your quickness in your way of thinking and feeling, that ability for you to look inside yourself and start pulling these pieces and lessons apart and really understanding them, is kind of one of your gifts. You can self-reflect, grab the lesson, figure out what you need to learn from it, and move on. And then you take that and you share it with others. So that was a lot of information. And like I said, we can go deeper, but I mean, that gives you kind of like a foundation of your life and your birth chart. Do you have any questions right now? Because I can go deeper.